Thank you. And it's good to be here in Adelaide. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the welcome by the government people, if I'm right, for the welcome this morning. I also would like to acknowledge the presence of the various tribes of the indigenous people of Australia, and close family and friends. And I'm indeed happy to be here and to present to you our experience back at the National Archives of Fiji. Thank you. This story, the story of this, the presentation this afternoon is about our experience, what we have experienced in the last 10 years in taking the archival services to the communities back in Fiji. Pacific Archives are mostly Pacific negatively. So this presentation is to share how the National Archives has tried to design or impact how we are perceived. The problem is archives were negatively perceived. This is the experience that we have seen in the last 10 years back in Fiji. Not many Fijians have been coming to visit the archives or to use the services that the government of Fiji provided. So way back in 2006, we started to go to the communities, and every year we analyze our experience and we try to improve on how we can actually better our services. So first of all, we try to identify our barriers. So empathy is how we identify these barriers. Some of the barriers that we have identified, the first one is on the misconception. Secondly, on the geographic location of the National Archives and the language. The records are written in English language, and also on the lack of trust by the Fijian citizen. On misconception, we have found out that Fijians, or the indigenous people, they believe that archives have confidential records, classified, and so it is always a taboo to come in and actually look at what the records hold for them. Secondly, archives is always out of bound. Thirdly, that they think that access to the archives is you have to pay a certain amount of money to actually get what you want from those records. And some may think that they may be mistreated for some reasons, because they might know more what information that are there. On language, records that we have are mostly written in English, and majority of the populations are indigenous Fijians and Indo-Fijians, and around 99.9% of the records are written in English. Most of the records are in bureaucratic language. They have been created by colonial administrators. As you know, Fiji was one of the British colonies, and it's written more than 100 years ago, and most of them are still not typed, they're scripted. So these are some of the barriers. And on the geographic location, the National Archives is only located in the main central part of Fiji, which is Suva, the capital. And it's always costly for the natives, the Fijians, to come to Suva. And what we have found out is that they spend a lot of things. They spend on things that seems more important. Actually, they will come in and they will go to offices that have current records. So they don't care about cover records. And they tend to visit the city just for entertainment. And the archives is always not a priority. It's not seen as a place to access important information. And the lack of trust. People think that we don't have anything that can help them. So, ensure people just go past the building, that they think that there's nothing there for them. So, the challenge for our team at the National Archives is to beat all these barriers. And so, National Archives has used empathy and experimentation to find solutions to these barriers. And how we do this is through outreach programs to the communities. If you see the picture, that is the picture of some of the islands in Fiji. It's not the beach that you can see on the internet. So if you're trying to visit Suva, we can take you up to the hills. So what is an outreach for us? Outreach program is not just show and tell. It's about taking archival resources to the rural people. So way back in 2006, we conducted about 3 outreach into the northern island. As you know, Fiji has around 300 islands, and we have only 1 archives in Fiji. So, our first trip, we found out that we were sending only 2 people. So what they did was just go there and show the pictures of what are the records that we have. When we came back, we received a lot of comments on how we can improve our services. So our next trip, we took computers, we took printers, we took copies of archival records that relates to those communities. And we had a busy day. The outreach only took about 2 days, and we have a handful of people coming in just to look at the records. And they will also help us in identifying and give us more information on the records that we are bringing over. So it's not only about taking archival resources to the rural people, it's about holding the hand of the user and taking them through the records. If you see the picture that we have, an archive staff is explaining to the people what the record is all about. So we can see that people are important assets to the archives. People help us to translate those records. Archives is about the people, and it is for them. So now, National Archives of Fiji has used empathy and experimentation to find solutions to these barriers. Empathy has also assisted us or drives us towards innovation. We have been taking the copies of the original records to the people. And most of them just look at the records and they don't do anything to those records. So what happens is we come back and we improve on how we can develop new resources for those communities. And from our outreach programs, it has helped us to support other national initiatives, thematic initiatives, and cultural initiatives. So let us look at some of the case studies of how empathy and experimentation has changed how archives is perceived. The first one is on the Pacific Laborers 150 years celebration. As the Pacific Laborers 150 years celebration is about the Pacific laborers that have been brought from the Pacific to come and work in Fiji as laborers. They came about in 1876 to work on plantation and infrastructure. So over time, they have lost their history. They have lost their identity, and they don't belong anywhere. And they feel that they don't trust their own oral history. So what happened on this day? If you can see the picture, there was only one tent. It was on a playground. You can see the National Archives tent right on the middle of the playground. It's where we display all these Pacific laborers' records, which dates back to 1876. All those years, they feel that they don't belong to anyone. So when seeing their history in black and white, they are confident about their identity. So after the outreach, now they know that their history existed. They know that their records belong to them, and they now appreciate that we look after the records, and they are grateful that we brought it over to them during the celebration. Now, they are trusting us. Another example is an outreach to the ROTUMA island. It's a Polynesian island, which also comes under the Fiji government. So what we did on this program, if you look at the map of Fiji, it's quite far away from Fiji, this small island. It took us about 2 days to travel by boat to reach this island. So what we did is we took their land records and their deed of cession copies. It was made and taken back to them. The land records talks about their tribes and their traditional systems. Some of them have never seen these records because they are only being kept by those administrators that administers the island. But now they have seen the records. Now they know that the archives exist. They know that these records belong to them. They appreciate that we look after the records. And now they are trusting us on the work that we are doing. Thirdly, on the first migration conference, this was recently held in the Western Division in Nandi in May. This was because of the previous outreach programs. Now communities and organizations have increased trust on the archives, and they are all coming to the archives to support, for us to support their programs. And for this one, this is an international program, and they have asked us to participate and add unique value to what they are trying to relay to the Indo-Fijians that are in Fiji. So power of these approaches have brought additional attention for the archives to support this event. More and proper displays of archival records are being developed. There are more stories being shared during the outreach because we are able to display a lot of archival records or stories relating to the Gilmitis that came to Fiji in 1879. So the descendants of the Gilmitis are able to embrace the stories and struggles which are properly inscribed in the archival records. So more and more scholars and the public are continuing to contact the archives to find out information about them. So empathy and experimentation has given us the solutions to our barriers. So currently NAF, or the National Archives of Fiji, has now has a different perception by the communities because of the process that we have gone through, that we have undertaken to improve our image at the National Archives. This was supposed to be a video interview, but I do not have the link. But this one is a story about a woman, because we believe that empathy is also about listening and understanding the needs of the community. So this story is about a woman who came looking for her family records, including information that links them to their tribal and land records. So for the past 5 years, she has been visiting other agencies, government agencies, but could not locate any information. So she was able to find these records after spending a couple of days at the archives, including continuous discussion and effort by the archive staff. And at this video, she was able to, she was acknowledging the work rendered by the archives team. She was able to locate those records pertaining to a family and a tribal records. So other experiments that we have also conducted. Right now we are using social media, Facebook, and before we go for an outreach to any community, what we do is we advise those communities, because in Fiji we have around 12 provinces, so we have to advise those communities, those tribes, that we are coming in with their records. So if you look at our Facebook page, you can see the amount of people that are coming in just to look at what the records and what it holds for them. So this was some of the ratings on our followers, and you can see that currently we are standing at number 3 internationally for the use of this social media, and hopefully we will continue to be at 3 for the rest of the years.
So, like many National Archives, the UK National Archives believes that we are an essential resource for our democracy, a public good and an asset for future generations. Our conviction is that archives change lives for the better. In fact, we've just seen some brilliant examples of that. And we believe that archives are for everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the journey that we've taken to get to the launch of our new 4-year strategy, Archives for Everyone. I'm going to talk about how we've embraced challenges and opportunities to find what we hope are pioneering solutions. I'm going to talk about what we've learned and what has informed the strategic vision that will serve as the springboard for everything that we do as an organisation, not just for the next 4 years, but all the way up to 2030. And I'm going to talk about how we're putting people at the heart of what we deliver as a National Archive. Delivering the archive that our audiences want, not just the archive that we think they should have. I'm going to argue that an ambitious strategy such as this can't be delivered in isolation. Inclusivity is at the bedrock of our plans, and only by being an inclusive archive and by collaborating and working in partnership can we address the challenges that we face and fulfil our potential. Finally, I'm going to talk about how Archives for Everyone builds on past strategies, how it articulates what archives are for, and the central role that they play in cultural and heritage life. So, the UK National Archives is a fairly large archive. We have 11 million physical records on our shelving and in our site in London, but we're also a digital archive. Our online catalogue, Discovery, holds 34 million descriptions of records. And every year, for every one document we deliver in the reading room, we deliver over 400 online. In real terms, that's 600,000 documents a year on site and 240 million every year online. Since 2003, we've also captured, preserved and made accessible the UK Government Web Archive, billions of web pages, videos, tweets and images, and over 5,000 websites. We also fulfil a leadership role for the archive sector in England and Wales and work to secure the future of physical and digital records. In a world where authenticity and trust in information is in short supply, the role and relevance of archives to individuals and society can go undiscovered. In our leadership role, we provide support to archives across the country, helping build the capacity needed to sustain the nation's archival heritage. We lead the UK government's strategic vision for archives, Archives Unlocked, a vision which is built on three themes. Trust, which we've just heard about, that people and institutions trust in the authenticity of archive records and how they're preserved and presented. Enrichment, that archives enhance and enrich our society intellectually, culturally, and economically. And finally, openness, that archives cultivate an open approach to knowledge and are accessible to all. Our vision is to change the way that people think about archives, and our starting point is therefore to challenge how we think about ourselves. Why should archives matter? Taking an outside-in approach, we've challenged ourselves to better understand the differing needs of our current and potential audiences in order to reimagine what an archive in the 21st century might be and who it might be for. So in 2015, we set a new course with a 4-year strategy called Archives Inspire. It was an ambitious and an audience-focused departure from our previous business plan, which was largely an articulation of our public task to collect, to preserve and to provide access to public records. With Archives Inspire, we took some bold decisions about the kind of institution that we wanted to be, and we looked our biggest challenges in the eye and chose to be outward-looking, relevant and connected. And we moved beyond our public task to our public good by articulating what archives are for. We recognised that we needed to think and organise ourselves differently if we were to meet the needs of our 4 key audiences. For us, that was government, the public, academia and the archive sector. And we also identified the need, as I mentioned earlier, for greater collaboration and partnership, not just in the UK but globally. In the 4 years since, we've learned an enormous amount about ourselves and about our audiences and our capabilities and the nature of the challenges that we face. Most importantly, we've fully recognised our potential. But to fulfil that potential, the potential that's inherent in our historic mission, we must be something new. So our new strategy, Archives for Everyone, focuses on the 3 types of archive that we know we have to be. The entrepreneurial archive creates and realises value at home and across the globe. Operating flexibly and fearlessly, it's adept at finding and exploiting commercial, research and philanthropic funding opportunities, opening out and promoting its collection. The disruptive archive changes everything. Constantly adapting, it rethinks and reshapes its practice to meet its contemporary and future challenges. Developing new skills and exploiting emerging technology, the disruptive archive reaffirms and transforms its historic mission for the digital age, from creation all the way through to presentation. And finally, the inclusive archive builds trust. It tears down barriers to access, participation and understanding. It harnesses talent from diverse backgrounds. It's bold, it's active and it's outward-looking. And it's encountered by people and communities in unexpected places and at vital moments. And it's this element of the strategy that I'm going to focus particularly on today. Our collections are vital to our mission. They inform and they guide us in everything that we do. And we want to bring people to our building and to our online services, but it has to go beyond the audience that might traditionally use our records. It needs to include a wider audience. We also want to take our collection out to audiences who can't or won't come to us. We've therefore developed an audience engagement strategy that's helped us to understand the interests, the motivations, and the expectations of not just existing users, but new users too. It's underpinned by extensive research, and the strategy is helping us shape and target all of our public programming activities. And through our public programming, we plan to make much greater use of our resources. We very much want to continue to welcome our existing audiences, but we also want to attract non-research visitors to the archives. To do this, it's vital that we provide them with a way of encountering our documents that is engaging, compelling, and where appropriate, immersive. Last year, for the first time, we presented a dedicated exhibition in our on-site gallery. This exhibition explored our collection of suffrage records and was a central part of our year-long Suffrage 100 programme. For 2019, our exhibition is Protect and Survive, Britain's Cold War Revealed, and once again it's at the heart of our public programming. Our records are at the core of this exhibition, and the interpretive techniques that we've employed demonstrate inclusivity in action. We want visitors to take an active role as they explore the gallery, and we've presented records in a way that shows how they were born. And we ask visitors to adopt an identity of a participant in the Cold War. Now this can be uncomfortable, but ultimately it helps participants empathise with the people who created the records that they're viewing. And this element of immersion provides a richer experience and gives a deeper understanding of why archives and archival records are key to understanding history. Our wider seasonal programming in 2019 is built around the Cold War theme, with events aimed at different audiences, from a digital trail for families to talks by our own and visiting experts. And our core event programme, What's On, runs in parallel and is themed around historical and cultural anniversaries. It includes programming for schools and outreach projects, debates, author talks, and special late evening events. And the programme means that we can be timely, tapping into the public consciousness in key historical anniversaries. These seasons and programmes are complemented by our online offering, reaching out to audiences that can't come to site by producing online exhibition blogs and podcasts. We're also delivering Project Welcome, a coordinated approach aimed at banishing some of that threshold fear that we heard about earlier that new visitors experience. This project is focused on improving the overall experience for visitors, looking at everything from how they plan their visit and are greeted on arrival, right through to their departure at the end of the day. We have aspirations to take our work beyond the walls of our building to reach audiences around the country. We've partnered with the National Trust on 2 hugely successful immersive experiences. The first of these was a recreation of the Caravan Club, a queer-friendly members club which was raided and closed by the police in 1934. The bohemian interior of this LGBT space was recreated on the site of the original club in central London, using records from our collection, including photographs, court reports and police papers. And by working with the National Trust, we were able to tell this important story and those of many other similar clandestine clubs of the era. In 2018, we partnered again with the National Trust on Suffragette City. Records from our collection inspired the recreation of a suffragette headquarters, a prison and a tea room in central London. And members of the public were invited to join this immersive experience when there were set tasks to help them experience and confront the difficult decisions faced by members of the movement a century earlier. Our partnership in Suffragette City formed part of the Suffrage 100 season, and the season saw us deliver our dedicated on-site exhibition, supported by a range of events and talks. And key to this was our programme for young people and children, which included family events, a schools programme, an animation workshop, and a partnership with a dance project for young people. All of these projects were inspired by our suffragette records and were curated by our specialists and our education team. So building on this work, and from what we've learned, we now plan to expand our award-winning education programme by increasing the number of school children we teach every year from 10,000 to 50,000. To do this, we're going to need new classrooms, both for on-site teaching but also virtual classrooms where we can connect with children all around the country. Over the last 4 years then, we've also been transforming our building, so it's a kind of space that people want to come to. I think it's fair to say that the Kew building was one which reflected our identity as an organisation which was geared towards transactional research. And it was clear to us, to achieve our aims, that we needed to transform these spaces. We took direction from our audience engagement work, looking at how audiences wanted to engage with our spaces. And we set about creating a national archive that is welcoming, beautiful and vibrant. A building that is truly inclusive, with spaces to meet the different needs of all of the audiences. But we know that we have much more to do. Our ambitious aims create new demands on a building which is little changed from the one that was designed over 40 years ago. But working with our architects, AOC, they've helped us to see how we can open up spaces and celebrate the heritage of our building and our architecture. It's already changed dramatically. We're using our spaces to experiment, and most importantly, in starting to welcome different people so that we can become a cultural institution that can be relevant for everyone in the future. As you might have seen from the slides, we've also rebranded ourselves to more appropriately reflect the kind of organisation that we're becoming. And we've worked with our brand partners, Hemingway Design, to think about how we can portray ourselves in a different light. So hopefully, as you can see, we've achieved a great deal in transforming ourselves over the last couple of years. But as I said earlier, all of this is only possible through collaboration and partnership. We all recognise the value of working together so that we can achieve more than we could on ourselves. And through our international strategy, Archives Inspire the World, we promote the value of archival collections around the globe. This is seen as partner with a variety of institutions. The University of Oldenburg on a 20-year research project to catalogue, transcribe and digitise the prize papers. These are letters, diaries, poems and artefacts, many of them of which are unopened from the 17th to the 19th century. We've also partnered with our colleagues at the United Arab Emirates on the Arabian Gulf Digital Archive, where we've digitised and placed online over 500,000 records from the Gulf region. Closer to home, we continue to work with volunteers. We've had a very successful collaboration with our volunteers for over 20 years, and currently one of our groups are working through prisoner of war records from those liberated from camps in Europe in 1945. And we work with commercial partners. Earlier this year, we announced that the contract to publish the 1921 census had been awarded. The census will be published in January 2022, and it's especially significant because it's the last census in the UK for a generation. So, the strategy and plans that I've outlined today are ambitious, we know that. They will see the UK National Archives take a giant step forward, using our collection to go way beyond our public task. But we know that to realise these ambitions, we're going to need new funding mechanisms. So in early 2020, we'll be launching the National Archives Trust. This new charitable body has been developed in part to support the transformation of the physical space, but also to support education and heritage activities across the country. With funding from the Trust, the designs for our physical space will become a reality, including our new exhibition and education spaces. The Trust will work to secure funding from grant-giving bodies and philanthropists. And we know that we're going to need to explain our plans to potential funders. So to show them that they will be investing in a worthwhile project and that their money will make a difference, we've commissioned a short film, which will either work now or not. So let's find out. I was told there was a slight delay.
The National Archives is guardian of some of the world's most iconic historical collections. From Doomsday to Downing Street tweets, we hold more than 1,000 years of history. This is the official archive and publisher for the UK government and for England and Wales. We are home to the nation's stories, and we invite you to share our vision for the future. Our ambition is to radically reimagine how a national archive should look and feel. This journey to create a vibrant and active cultural destination that's open to everybody has already begun. We will revolutionise our visitor experience. We are expanding our award-winning education programme. Our plans for new learning rooms, virtual classrooms and breakout spaces will give 50,000 pupils a year the opportunity to interact with historical records dating back hundreds of years. We will build dynamic environments where tomorrow's researchers can connect with our nation's past. The Hall of Archives will be a remarkable new centrepiece, allowing visitors to see behind the scenes of the National Archives. Interactive exhibitions and family events will attract new and diverse audiences. We want to create a setting where our visitors can immerse themselves in the past. They'll be able to wander through history and touch it by getting hands-on with documents, a chance to engage with our collections in more open and absorbing ways. We have the opportunity to transform the National Archives into a must-see cultural destination. Join us on our journey. This history belongs to all of us.
There you go, that's what you call a trustworthy northern accent in the UK. We know that we won't become the 21st century National Archive overnight. We know that it's going to take time, it's going to take focus, effort and daring. We're learning all the time, we've got a long way to go, but we're open to the idea of challenge and we're open to learn. Delivering this strategic plan will absolutely transform us more profoundly than at any time in our long history. But through our new and creative approach to our historic mission and through our leadership and convening power, we will pioneer a new kind of cultural and heritage institution, and will make good on our unique promise and potential as the 21st century National Archives, and hopefully become the archive for everyone. Thank you.
My name is Mi-jung Kim. I work at the National Archives of Korea. This presentation aims to propose the direction of the archives based on the change of Korean archives. The mission of the archives has also changed in Korean history. Here, I will share the characteristics of three-stage archives, centering with cases of the National Archives of Korea. The table of contents is as follows. First, Archive 1.0 it was time when preservation-oriented records management took place. Second, Archive 2.0 it is time to share the value of records in early steps after enacting the Record Management Act. Third, Archive 3.0, it is a period when producers and users of records communicate and share their records to form a new knowledge system. This concept is from my view about change of archives as one of archivist. Archive 1.0 was the period of record preservation. The Goryeo, established in 1280, Goryeo was a government office responsible for the preservation and management of documents. It was to preserve books, family registers, maps, and writing. The legal basis for the production and management of the public records, the Joseon dynasty, were completed through the Gyeonggukdaejeon. Gyeonggukdaejeon is the grand rule of laws in 1485. The major records of the Joseon dynasty include official documents, private documents, diary, and royal protocols. Those who sit in the red circle are official historians. They are the archivists of the Joseon. Official historians recorded the actions of the king and officials of the state affairs, managed the records and documents kept in the court, and maintained the records kept in local repositories. The annals of the Joseon dynasty are records of what happened during the Joseon dynasty and other texts from 1392 to 1863. The book on the left is a memoir of King Sejong of Korea, and the box in the middle is the box that kept the memoir, and the memoir put into this box was stored in the repositories. The repositories were initially distributed in 3 different areas in preparation for loss and destruction. Since the establishment of Korean government after the Japanese colonial rule, the government official document regulations stipulated the format and preparation of documents and the standardization of administrative work. In 1962, when there was no separate records management institution, a microfilm studio was opened in the Department of the Interior. Since 1962, the microfilming of the important government records was started. Finally, the Government Archives 1969 was established, and intensive preservation of documents and drawings were subject to permanent preservation began. The Korean War, June 12 by 1950s, destroyed most of the records. Ironically, the war records was produced during this period, such as war plans and operational journals. Throughout the Korean War, a method of dual preservation has been introduced to preserve records. In November 1984, the Busan Archives was opened. In 1998, it moved to the government complex in Daejeon and secured computation, acumen, and audiovisual records. As such, from the pre-modern to the early 1990s, Korean archives focused on preservation-oriented records management. Next, let's take a look at Archive 2.0. Since the establishment of Korean government after the Japanese, in 1999, the law on public institution records management was enacted to systematically manage national records. Archive 2.0 as value records through categorization and arrangement, and is the beginning of active sharing of records. Archive 2.0 has 3 main features. First, the establishment of record management law and the establishment of record management organization. Second is the expansion of record management. Third, it is an integrated information disclosure system. The Public Records Management Act was enacted in 1999 and renamed the National Archives of 24. In 2007, the Presidential Archives is established. The production and registration of records were mandatory by enacting the laws, and then record management organizations were established. By applying the Record Management Act, government managed not only public records but also private records, which were nationally preservation value. The record-keeping target has been expanded. Public records and private records, as well as important records related to Korea, have been subject to correction and management. By correcting overseas records, we were able to regain records that were lost in the world. The object of records management are being expanded in various ways, including a donation, overseas record collection, private record collection, and oral record collection. In addition, we have expanded the public access to the records retained by the National Archives in order to share the value of records. The aim was to build a system that not only promotes people's right to know, but also shares the value of records with them. The Korean National Archives has been gradually expanding the online text storage since 2014, focusing on records with high demand and utilization for public information disclosure and sharing. You can see the record you want by clicking on original document searching without visiting archives. The big data era has arrived. The amount of record produced is also hard to estimate, and this trend is getting very fast. The National Archives is expanding its role to Agora, where Archives 1.0 is preserved. Standardization and use of Archive 2.0 records management and Archive 3.0 users are involved in records management. With the production of various records, management is becoming more important at the production stage of public institutions. In order to improve quality management at each production stage, the National Archives of Korea operates the Record Education Center. We are specialized in record management training, archivist training, and special training. Recently, in addition to offline education, cyber education is also being combined. We also have various education programs for children. Local societies, school archives operates in conjunction with the schedule and is mainly focused on the library exhibition tour for the lower grade of elementary school students. Children are encouraged to become future record producers and users by informing children of all the activities and how they are carried out at all stages of the production, classification, organization, technology, and preservation of records. Through agent petrograph, help the children understand how streets in our lives are recorded. The preservation box making activity is an education that teaches how the preservation of produced record proceeds and why they are needed. These activities help children become familiar with records and record management. This photo is one of the record culture experience class which was held for elementary school students in 2018. The photo at the top left is the actual petrographs of Ulsan Bangde in Korea. It is whale that is carved on a petroglyph. And this activity allows the children to understand the stories and the records carved on the petroglyph. Most children and parents were interested in this activity. After this experience, children and parents became interested in various records and participated in other activities of National Archives. In addition, archivists visit schools and introduce archivists as a profession. It helps they grow as a record management professional by introducing what an archivist does and what kind of study and experience it takes to become an archivist. It is hoped that more youth will be candidates for future archivists by introducing archivists as a profession through remote school visit where the National Archives is not available. The picture of the raft is an archival culture activity in which children and parents participated together. The table on the right summarizes the operating status of archival culture programs by year from 2008 to 2018. From 2008 to 2018, a total of 673 times 28,832 people participated. We operated various programs for kindergartners, elementary school students, middle and high school students, and others. It is impossible for a single country to respond to changes in records and environment. Therefore, academic, technical, and human exchanges are needed at the global level. The National Archives continues to pursue benchmarking of foreign institutions, education for foreigners, occurs in all areas of record management. The management of national records should be made together by a relevant expert and citizens. The National Archives of Korea is encouraging citizens to create an internet space called Record Square in order to actively collect opinions of public officials and users who are related to national records. In addition, surveys on record retrieval are periodically implemented and reflected in the policy. Invite junior press corps, which are composed of elementary school, to share the role and function of the archive. The photo is last year event. The children's reporter who visited left a review on the homepage. These reviews reveal what they were interested in, what information they learned, and how they thought about the record before and after the visit. The title of the review is as follows: The Records Gathered into History National Archives. The National Archives and Future Record Live, jewel box of historical records such as jewels of the country, National Archives. By operating programs that take into account various places and ages, we are creating a place for intergenerational communication through the archival culture, local resident invitation programs for seniors. Actively invite the elderly who are easily marginalized into the archive. It provides an experience of recording the memory of their life. The National Archives has also held a Records Love Festival since 2007 to help local residents find that records are a part of their daily lives and that they are enjoyable. The children who participated in the festival write and draw all the records in the front yard of the National Archives, and the others watch the exhibit of the National Archives explaining to the children and read notes of the wishes of the National Archives. The National Archives may review these proposals that incorporate them into the operation of the National Archives. People take pictures of their families and the day and recognize them as a courtyard that show us living at the National Archive. These are works submitted to the password through pictures, text, and cartoons. You can see different ideas about different levels of record. The Korean National Archives has been faithful to its role as the subject of the Permanent Records Management Institution. Focusing on the major public records in Korea, the center aims to educate and publicize the importance of records. As the awareness of records expanded, the interest that had been concentrated on public records have gradually expanded to individual daily records and local society records. The role of archive is changing from public records to daily records by sharing and utilizing various records in the delivery of information. Archives need to transform beyond just preserving and serving records to create spaces where they can share, communicate, and participate to create new knowledge. In the big data age, archives do not store records within the framework, but encourage citizens to manage their own national, corporate, and personal records with the procedures and standards provided by the National Archives. This ensures that records are managed at the standards of record management in citizens' lives and that citizens participated in process for records that require archiving at the national level. Furthermore, we will share the concept of record management with citizens and come to the agora of archival culture to foster active communication in establishing standards and procedures for records management. Thank you for your time and attention.
So questions now, opportunities for you to ask questions of all three speakers.
First of all, thank you very much for that presentation. And when I saw the picture of Congress 2016, it brought back very many happy memories of what a wonderful event that was in Seoul, with more than 2,000 people, which I think underscores the point you were making, a high level of interest and participation in Korea in archives. I love the school programs that were in there, and I just wonder, are all of those programs conducted in Seoul, or do you run those programs around Korea? Do you take them outside the archives into schools, or are these things that you're running within your institution? Thank you.
In National Archives of Korea, there are a variety of archival research programs, and in fact, there are 2 members in program our team, but we are expanding our archival culture programs, and especially I think that the National Archive is moving in that directions, in my opinion, and that's the proof I introduced to you today. National Archives carries out a variety of activities to nature citizens as agents of record management. Yes. We have the Record Law Festival to help citizens become familiar with records, and citizens are trained on records management procedures. Yeah. And so we have to have to the archival question perhaps. Yeah. I will do best. Yeah. Thank you. Jeff.
I have a question of you. And thank you, John, because I was going to ask that question too about how many staff. We've got a number of programs for different, a diverse group of age groups coming into your archive. So Jeff, you're in the same space here, rethinking your archive, engaging people to come to you of different age groups and really rethinking about a contemporary archive that takes us forward into the 21st century. So how did you bring all of your staff, your teams in TNA together to help redesign the archive?
That's a really good question. So I guess we're still on a bit of a journey on that front. I mean, in terms of the strategy, we had quite a long and extensive process of co-creation with our colleagues to make sure that everybody was behind the game. I think most people wanted us to be ambitious. Most people wanted us to capitalise on some of our strengths, but also to reach out to different audiences and, as the theme suggests, to be more inclusive in the way in which we delivered our services. The themes emerged from workshops that we ran internally with staff, actually. So, the final wording of them might have come through the process of iteration, but the actual themes came out quite strongly in the engagement with staff over the period of about 6 months. I think as well, partly it's, to a certain extent, we're a victim of our own success. We've been very successful in putting content online, and we are now very much an online organisation, but also that removes the need to some extent for people to come to our site. So we had to think creatively about other ways that people could engage with the collection, which perhaps were not the traditional research ways of engaging. So there's been a big push on public programming for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think this year the Cold War exhibition and that season of events has been a bit of a milestone for us. It's the first time that we've been able to attract people specifically coming to the site to engage with the exhibition and with the programme of events around that. And it's given us a very different demographic. So when we've measured those people, they're younger, and a lot of them have never been to an archive before, which was exactly what we were aiming for. We were trying to reach out to people who wouldn't ordinarily engage with us.
Sorry, I know I'm being very selfish, but can I ask him? I don't want to interrupt. This one's for you, Timoci. I loved, sorry, you look too relaxed. No, look, I my best regards for Peter, by the way, and I wish him all the very best. The pictures you had of the regional engagement, where you took the records to the people, and the photos, the light, the looks on people's faces, it did look like it was a very emotional, high-impact event. And I'm just wondering what happened when that was finished, and you went back to Suva. Do you leave copies of records in localities, or do people then go online through Facebook? What happens after you finish those events in a regional area of Fiji?
Yes, from the experience that we have gone through for those locations that cannot be reached, frequently. What we did was we had a meeting with the provincial administrators, and we managed to talk to them and leave some of those records pertaining to those locations, those provinces, with them. And for individuals, for the communities, when they come in and identify some of the records, even photos, come in and ask, they describe the records, the photos, take those information, and what happens, we give them those ones, because they are just copies. So, it's the Pacific way, where we also system because they've given us the metadata. So in return, we have to give them something. So that's how we deal with it. And in most cases, when we reach Suva, we receive a lot of online emails on Facebook and on our email address. That's when we have to come and scan all those records to other people that needed those records. So services does not end after the program. It continues until the answer.
I'm going to ask another one, and I think it's to all three, but it's also to all of you here today. It seems to me that in focusing now on users, researchers, everyone's a researcher, everyone that has a smart device, no matter what age they are, is looking for information on something that they might want to use again or share with somebody or reuse and create something new. And I'm really excited at the prospect that Timoci can generate such excitement in taking records out into community and then connecting back online. So those, the word spreads. Community wants to know more. Where did you get that? How did you get that? How can I get it? And they go on Facebook, they go online and come back in. As Timoci said, the service doesn't end. Mijong talking about those students, those seniors groups, bringing into, but also going out to community. And Jeff the same, thinking about a new demographic to come into the National Archives. You can do so much online, but unless a conversation can be had and you can be face to face with someone and ask some questions, you kind of get to a brick wall, really. And I think this is so exciting for the future of archives because we need to engage with new generations. We need to be bringing stories out and sharing and exchanging them. It's such an enriching experience, as we all know. And struggle as we might with government funding seeming to decrease, private purse is always a good opportunity to encourage and engage with. And I think as Head of Access and Public Engagement at the National Archives of Australia, that it's a constant question of how do we engage, how do we excite, and how do we bring the value of the records that or the data that we bring in, that we keep, that we preserve, to ensure others can experience the same. And finding those that are a part of your family, which is what we learned about a bit earlier today, is such a really intrinsic and valued part of what we do. So, is there any more questions? Yes, there is. Oh, I've encouraged you. Fantastic.
Louise, you actually inspired the question. I'm Tatiana Amsucha from the National Archives in Canada. Talking about Archives 3.0, was there any thinking? That's the question to everybody. Jeff, don't look away. You didn't say that, but you did say you were inventing the Archives 2020, probably as well looking at things. Is there any thinking of how to work with the researchers that need our records as data, as machine executable, machine readable objects, not just our traditional records? And that's very important and great work to everybody. Was there any discussion, say, in your workshops with your staff, and John, you also mentioned big data and numbers to consider?
So that of those three themes, the disruption theme speaks heavily towards digital records and the changing nature of digital records and what that means for the way in which researchers are going to engage with our content. So our digital strategy defines us as what we call a first generation digital archive, which is, for us, is replicating physical processes in the digital environment. And the ambition is to become a second generation archive where we're actually rethinking archival practice in that digital environment, and data is going to be a key part of that. Sticking my fan hat on instead of my UK National Archives hat on, we ran a symposium on artificial intelligence just over a year ago at Kew, and that was very much looking at how machine learning and how artificial intelligence was going to change the way in which future researchers were going to want to engage with collections. So a lot of what we're doing now is thinking about how we can exploit those technology opportunities, many of which are not actually from within the archive sector. That's the other thing to emphasise. Most of these things are, they're wider applications that we can use in an archival context. And that's a big part of what that disruption theme is intended to achieve. And I think there's limitless opportunities with that. And it is going to fundamentally transform us again. I mentioned earlier on when we had the Archives Inspire strategy, I said that I think the phrase was we looked out our biggest challenge in the eye, and our biggest challenge was digital. And still is. And that's a fundamental part of what we'll be doing for the next 12 years. I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah.
My name is Sam Anderson. I'm from the Faroe Islands. Can I ask a stupid question here? Jeff, you told us that you were a victim of your own success because you have been digitalizing and people don't come. Why not go? Why do you want? You used a lot of resources to get people away, and now you want to use a lot of resources to get people back. And you even told us that you don't have the fundings. You have to go get the fundings everywhere. Why not close down reading rooms and queue and just drop that?
It's probably worth reflecting a little bit on the nature of our success. Most people probably know the UK's approach to this has been to work in partnership to license content, predominantly name-rich content, with family history providers, and also we've done a lot with academic publishers over the last few years as well. In terms of the overall volume of our collections, we've actually digitised less than 10%. In terms of usage, it's much higher because, like many people, a big chunk of our user base are family historians. So we have this interesting challenge that I think most of us probably have, which is we don't get to do this thing that people often talk about of channel shift, moving from a physical paradigm to a digital paradigm. We have to do both. I have a statutory obligation to provide access to public records, and the reality is that over 90% of them are physical. And they will remain physical because they're not attractive enough for external funding. And when we've done work to determine how much it would cost us to do it ourselves, it runs to about £4 billion. And I don't have £4 billion. So I think it's a nice problem to have. The reality, and I know we spoke long and hard about the entrepreneurial element of our strategy, because we recognise that some people might find the notion of entrepreneurialism a bit difficult. But the reality is that almost 30% of our funding now comes from commercial income. And without that commercial income, we wouldn't be able to fund our core activities. But equally, we wouldn't have achieved the reach that we have. So you don't have to come to Kew to look at our records. And it's a nice problem to have, but it is I have to do both, and I think it presents an opportunity to have a more meaningful, emotional, tactile engagement that you can have just in a digital environment.
Okay. Well, one more question, John, and then we have to wrap up. Yep, you do. No.
I guess my question is from a National Archives perspective, do you ever get the feeling that your respective governments are trying to turn you into some sort of Disneyland?
No, is the answer to that. So, we're a non-ministerial department, so we operate at quite a distance, and we set our own strategy. It's approved by ministers, but I present the strategy to ministers. This isn't about turning us into a theme park. This is about us recognising the value in our collections and the power to change people's lives with those collections and those stories, and doing it in a way which is engaging and immersive and enjoyable. And I don't apologise for that at all. I think one of the things that we have to address as a profession is that our users have moved beyond the point at which they expect us to tell them what to do. They've moved into a point where they, quite rightly, set the expectations. And part of those expectations is to have different engagements with the collections.
And I'd also invite you to put your hands together to thank Balenaivalu, Jeff James and Dr. Mijong Kim for their presentations.